The jungle was alive with whispers of the night. Leaves trembled in the humid air, shadows stretched long and deep, and the moonlight spilled silver over the dense foliage. Hidden within the darkness, a pair of golden feline eyes glowed with hunger, not for food, but for something more primal. Nyx had waited long enough. Her body was ripe, every sinew humming with desire. Half woman, half cat, she moved through the jungle as though she were part of it, silent and smooth as the shifting mist. Her skin, kissed by moonlight, shimmered with an unnatural beauty that made men weak. She knew it, she had always known it, and now she would use it. She had been tracking him for days, the soldier, a man from the United States, deep in the jungle on a mission she neither knew nor cared about. What mattered was his strength, his power, the raw masculinity that pulsed through his every movement. He was the one, the perfect mate. From the canopy above, Nyx watched as he made camp. His muscles flexed beneath his sweat-dampened shirt as he tended to the fire. His gear was neatly arranged, a tactical backpack, a combat knife strapped to his thigh, an M4 carbine within arm's reach. Every movement was precise, every action calculated. He was the embodiment of discipline and control. The scent of him, of sweat and earth, and something deeply male, filled her senses. Her body tensed in anticipation. She licked her lips, her sharp canines glinting. It was time. She descended like a phantom, the jungle aiding her approach. One moment, he was alone. The next, she was there, standing just beyond the fire's glow, her presence both otherworldly and undeniable. He looked up, startled, hand moving to his weapon. But as his eyes locked onto hers, the tension in his body wavered. She let her tail flick lazily behind her, let the firelight dance across the smooth curves of her body. "You don't need that," she purred, her voice a rich melody of silk and shadows. "I mean you no harm." His grip loosened slightly, though his breath remained uneven. "Who? What are you?" She stepped closer, her movements a hypnotic sway of hips and grace. "I am Nyx, and I have been watching you." She circled him, slow and deliberate, her claw-tipped fingers trailing through the air, teasingly close to his skin. "I seek a mate, one strong enough to father the next evolution, a child that is neither man nor beast, but something more." His breath hitched. "You?" She leaned in, her lips mere inches from his ear, her voice dripping with need. "You are perfect. I have chosen you, and now you will choose me." Her golden eyes burned into his, the depths of them impossible to resist. But Daniel had spent years mastering control, resisting the most intense pressures. His instincts screamed at him to step away, to break free from the spell she was weaving around him. His training kicked in, telling him to analyze, to distrust. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to look away from her hypnotic gaze. "This isn't real," he muttered, shaking his head as if to dispel the fog clouding his thoughts. "You're trying to manipulate me." Nyx tilted her head, a slow smile curling on her lips. "And yet you haven't moved." His pulse pounded in his ears. His body betrayed him, drawn to her like the tide to the moon. Every fiber of his being told him to surrender, to fall into her embrace. But he gritted his teeth, taking a slow step backward, muscles taut with defiance. "I'm not some mindless animal to be lured in. I don't just give in to temptation." Her laughter was a soft, knowing purr. "Oh, but you are, Daniel. You fight, but your body, your heart, they tell a different story." Nyx's smile didn't falter. She prowled closer, relentless, her voice weaving a sensual spell around him. "You can resist for now, soldier, but the jungle has a way of breaking even the strongest, and I have all the time in the world." Daniel swallowed hard, his resolve teetering on the edge. The battle had only just begun. For hours he sat by the fire, trying to steady his breath, trying to ignore the golden gaze that gleamed from the darkness. He knew she was watching, waiting, like a predator savoring the chase. The tension coiled in his muscles, refused to dissipate, his mind at war with his instincts. Sleep eluded him, but exhaustion gnawed at the edges of his consciousness. His mission, his discipline, everything was unraveling under the weight of her presence. And she knew it. A rustling in the leaves, a whisper in the wind, then suddenly a warm breath ghosted over his neck. Nyx chuckled, wrapping her tail around his wrist before slipping into the jungle once more. "We shall see,"